be the first time in a long time where I'm going to give an update this morning about some of our building renovation plans, and that's going to be exciting to share here in a moment. But before I get to that, I just with a shout, and I want you guys to use your voices. If you were here in 2019, around the time of the merge, and heard all the details and backstory of our plans, would you just give me a shout? Okay. Oh, quite a few of you. Now, I know this is going to be asking a lot of you, especially if today's your first Sunday. But if you don't know what we're talking about in terms of building renovation and all, if you're new, if you've come since we did the Here for Good capital campaign, which we'll share about here in a moment, and you're just like, I don't even know about that. I thought the blue carpet was here to stay. If that's you, would you give me a shout? Okay, so about 50-50, okay. So we're going to rewind a little bit today, and then we're going to fast forward, and I hope that this will all be somewhat exciting because we do finally have some progress that's taken quite some time to make. But in order to do that, I actually want to turn our attention to the screens one more time. We're going to watch an oldie but goodie, a throwback video that we made as we were beginning to make plans to renovate this church building. So let's watch this together, and I'll be right back up. 2019 was a banner year for us in so many ways as we experienced a fresh, bold, and unprecedented move of God in and through our church as He brought together two distinct churches. One of our churches, Maker's Church, was almost a decade old, and North Park Baptist Church has been on this corner of Bancroft and North Park Way for almost 100 years. And we don't want to lose the idea that we right now have been entrusted with so much, that we have the duty not only to uphold, but to grow.
And we're convinced that this neighborhood of North Park has an exponential impact and influence on San Diego. So if God can do a movement and a work here in North Park, that's going to have ripple out effects into the city of San Diego.
I think one of the exciting things to me about this merger between the two churches is it is a continuation of exactly what Rob and I have been doing over the last 20 years. I mean, our view was to look at the neighborhood and try to mirror the neighborhood. And we did that, but we got older and the neighborhood changed, and a lot of younger, more cooler people than us moved in, and we couldn't reach them.
They're not cooler than us.
True. But
they're just younger.
Okay, so we realized, but here's the deal: that the Makers side, they were reaching people that we could not.
When I think of Here for Good, I think of the word here is a present tense, and here is always here today. Can't do anything about what happened yesterday, and don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so we intentionally made up our mind to be present for people on today.
It reminds me of the time that we got out a map of North Park and we determined to pray over every house in 92104, and we would go out and we would highlight the area in North Park that we had prayed over that day. And it was amazing because every day, every week that we prayed over an area of North Park, somebody from that area came to church the following week.
For me, I think that in every generation there has to be somebody from that generation that can speak into it. And there comes the time when it's time to pass the torch. And all of these Makers people are the answer to our prayers, and I see it as a God thing. And so for me, I'm excited about what the future holds and what it's like for them in 20 years.
We want this physical space to be a blessing and a resource for the neighborhood. We want to see life happening throughout these rooms, not just on Sundays, but throughout the week. So we're launching this campaign, Here for Good. And that name has a lot of multiple meanings to it. One is that we are here for good, meaning we are here to stay in this space. But it's also this idea that we are here for good. We want to be known for the things that we are for, and specifically we want to be a blessing to San Diego and here in North Park.
Over the next few years, we'll renovate our entire campus with much needed infrastructure improvements and repairs that will allow us to serve others and do more good in North Park, as well as the rest of our city. And some of our biggest needs right now are to put an elevator in so that anybody and everybody can access all floors of our building. But we also need to build bathrooms that are accessible for everybody.
We have all kinds of big vision for turning our 3-story building into some kind of co-working space where different nonprofits and companies can come and make a home, where we can have artisan studios, where creativity and art can be generated here in this space.
We dream that one day that every dollar of your tithe and of your giving would go directly to impact in the neighborhood. And so we would love to fund our operating costs off of revenue from the assets that we have as a church.
We want to renovate and beautify our kids' space so that our families and our neighborhoods and our children can have amazing spaces for daycare and childcare, not just on the weekends, but all throughout the week. We want this place to be buzzing with life.
This is actually our most used room. It gets used almost daily. Moms group and a men's group and so many different community groups that meet in this room throughout the week.
So to be able to have the space to meet and do our moms group has been so huge for us as a group. Before this, we met at 2 different houses, and it was fine for hosting a group, but since we have so many moms, that means we have so many kids. And most of our moms have more than 1 kid.
And we could only grow so much in that space because it's someone's home and we have kids. But having the space here, we're able to have daycares, different volunteers to help.
Our group has almost doubled in size because we have the space here. So it has been just not only an opportunity for better ministry, but also more ministry.
We're also really excited about what's going to happen in the kids area. We need to update that space and make it safe is our first priority. But beyond that, we're really excited about this idea of putting a preschool back there.
Gosh, I'm most excited just about how fast we are growing here in the Families Ministry. We're averaging around 60 kids on a Sunday, which is pretty phenomenal. We've had, on average, at least 1 new family show up on a Sunday, which has been incredible. Our hope is to partner with a preschool in the future, to dream up what it could look like for this space to be buzzing all week long, not just on Sundays, is really exciting for us and is going to allow us to be more intentional with our neighbors and connecting more with the families who live in this community. I'm excited that the kids' space is going to be a direct way for us to impact North Park in such a personal way.
When I think about being here for good, I think about being present, fully present, being an advocate within the community. And the good part is thinking about all of those things within our church and in our community that people need in order to become who God has called them to become. When we say that we're here for good, we're saying that we're here for people. We're here for our community. We're here to fill in that gap that's missing in so many people's lives. And I think that the local church is the answer to so many people's that missing piece in their heart that God's calling them into right now.
There's so much need in North Park when it comes to poverty and addiction, and just for this building to be a safe place for those people and for us to impact our community through this church is so exciting to me. And also one of them would be to reach out and partner with our local businesses in North Park and to just grow those relationships.
How much more of an impact we can make in our community if we go and we partner with places like Nomad Donuts and buy gift certificates, and then when you come here, we give you this gift certificate that now you're supporting this local business. Makers being a place with no agenda at all, but just hey, we're here to support our community, and in doing so we want to make our new people feel welcome and for them to experience this great neighborhood that we have here in North Park. So here's an excuse to go try one of these amazing local businesses.
To best be a blessing for this neighborhood, I think it's our ability to develop our listening ears. Because as we develop our listening ears, then we are more available to whoever it is in the community. And that's challenging because in order to develop our listening ears, sometimes that means we have to step outside of our own comfort zone. But that's the good part, because that means that's when we grow.
So here's how we're going to do this. We've hired an architect. We've done a lot of work on the back end to figure out what it's going to require to flip this building, to change it into something that can be used for the next 100 years. This is a big task, but we can't do it alone. We're moving forward in faithfulness together. We need you to partner with us. We need to sacrifice together in a great way to see this come to pass. As you consider how you want to support the future of Maker's Church, your giving, whether big or small, can have a huge impact. We invite you to join us as we step into our future together, to be here for good. So that video's not current, right? That's an old video. That was actually filmed at the end of 2019 as we were gearing up with plans to renovate this church building. And so just disclaimer, a lot of that information and pictures and everything are no longer accurate. The renderings, if you loved them, I'm sorry, they're not happening. If you hated them, you're welcome. They're not happening. That film was part of a capital campaign called Here for Good. It was a plan that we were making to renovate this church building. It was in the end of 2019, after our merge. We're heading into 2020. We did about a 3-month teaching series through the book of Nehemiah, and we were all leveraging towards this sacrificial time in the church history where we would come together and we would contribute money to help make the next 100 years possible on this corner. And it was so cool. This is a really, really exciting time for us as a church. As we look back on all that God has done and as we look forward together to what God will continue to do through us. And so today we really begin the beginning of a capital campaign where we're asking all of you to partner with us and to really pray through and think about how God would have you partner with us financially above and beyond your normal tithe and offering to help see this come into fruition. Here for Good's been our vision for the year. But a vision at some point has to take form into a strategy. And part of our strategy is a capital campaign to help renovate this building. And March 15th is going to be our Commitment Sunday, where we hope that by then you've talked with your significant others in your household, you've prayed, and you've asked, how can you be part of this? And we're going to come together and we're going to commit on March 15th so that we can see how God can move through all of us to make this happen. And so, as you know, many of you were here last week. Attached with this series, we began a capital campaign to raise money to renovate this building, to renovate this space. And the beautiful part of it is that plan, that strategy, it was birthed out of the gap between analysis paralysis and fire-ready aim. It came out of the obstacles of what does it mean for us to be here for good? We know what it means for us to be here for good is far beyond a building. It's far beyond 3810 Bancroft Street. But the gap, the thing standing in the way between us being able to go about and be here for good in this city and beyond is this crumbling, dying building that we have to address. Therefore, the strategy was formed. It's not about equal giving, it's about equal sacrifice. It's not about everybody doing the same thing or doing as much of the same thing. It's about all of us bringing the best of what we have, the best of what God has entrusted to us, and leveraging that in an organized way so that we can see the vision that God has given us come to pass. What happens is you don't only just return to prayer, but you revise your plan. And I want you to understand something this morning. There's nothing wrong with revising the plan. The plan is different than the vision. The vision and the plan are two different things. The vision is the thing that you hear from God and it doesn't change. The plan is the thing that you start working on and you realize, I've got some more information, it needs to change. Plans change all the time. I'm telling you right now that we've got a plan to renovate this church building. And the plan's already changed more times than we can count. And the plan will continue to change as we get more information, as we make more wise decisions. The plan will change, but the vision will not. The vision that we will be a people that are here for good will not change. That we will do everything we can to be here, to be present, to be embedded in this community, to be known for what we're for, to know that we're for Jesus and we're for people, and to go and do good. We're never gonna die on the hill of one method or one mechanism or even one plan. And so I think we need to be willing to go back and revise the plan, see what happens. So next Sunday is the end of this Here for Good series, and it's what we're calling Commitment Sunday. And next Sunday is going to be a really, really important and really meaningful day for us as a church. And it's where we're asking every single one of you, whether you're with us in person here or whether you're watching online, to come back next Sunday and to commit to be a part of our Here for Good movement financially, to partner with us financially above and beyond what you normally give to help us see this vision come to pass. And so it was our day where those who were part of our church had taken these envelopes home. They've prayed over them. Some turned them in early because they knew they weren't going to be here that day. That was precisely 3 years, 7 months, and 11 days ago from today. And it was an important day. It was Commitment Sunday. We were going to do this thing together. And if you also remember what March 15th, 2020 was, it was the first day of the shutdown from COVID. Hey, Makers Church, Pastor Derek here. I'm actually in beautiful Colorado right now with about 50 pastors from around the nation, and just checking in, encouraging each other, spending time praying. It's been a great time. I hope that you're having a great day as well. And I just wanted to check in and update you on how Makers Church is responding to the coronavirus scare. I know it's been a really confusing week and really a confusing day as the news has started to escalate around how we're going to respond to this as a nation, as a state, and even as a city. And so out of the direction of the mayor and the governor of the state of California, we have decided to take their heed, to heed their call, and we're going to move all of our church services on Sunday. Everything's going to be online. And so we want you to join us at 10 a.m. on our live stream. And we hope to be with all of you in your homes or wherever you might be that day. And so we just want to let you know that in our abundance of caution, we're going to heed the call and we're going to move everything online and stop our public gathering, at least for this weekend and probably the weeks to come. We're going to keep you updated on how long this is going to last. And we're hoping that we find a solution to this together as the world is trying to solve this problem right now. This is an amazing opportunity for us as a church to be here for good, to respond to all of the different needs and the crisis that's happening in our city. And so we want you to stay tuned as well as we work to create some opportunities for us to respond in this time of need. We are not going to respond in a spirit of fear or timidity. We're going to be courageous and we're going to respond in an act of love and kindness around the city. And I just can't wait to see what the church does in San Diego to help people in this time of need. All of these plans, all of this work, all of this stuff I hate doing, right? Raising money, capital campaign, all of it. Last thing I ever want to do. We had done it, though, because we believed in the vision God had given us. And these are the actual, some of you turned these things in early. These are the actual pledge cards that we had for the day. And then COVID happened. And everything changed. Everything changed. We had no idea at that time what was actually going to happen. We were just literally making decisions on the fly. Like, we didn't know if we were going to gather that Sunday until pretty much the night before. And it was really hard to believe and hard to make sense of. And now we know so much more than we know then looking back. But then it was all unknown. We had this awesome vision. We had this wonderful plan. And it all crashed and burned. You ever been there? You ever been there in your life? I mean, other than being part of this thing that crashed and burned, we all get there, right? We have plans for our lives that end up just absolutely getting destroyed in the making. And so we were there. The plans were made. The table was set. The envelopes were given. People were praying. People had plans. And that morning came, and no one came, except for a few of us who recorded our first live stream that didn't work. Hey, Makers Church. Hey, thank you to every one of you that tried to join us online this morning. if you were with us, you obviously know that we experienced some major technical difficulties. And so I just wanted to say thank you for your patience. Thanks for many of you who kept retuning back in and trying different platforms. We're just so grateful for your commitment to being a part of what God is doing here at Makers Church. We have compiled our whole morning together, and it's going to be available online right now. And so that's what you're going to see and experience is an uninterrupted version of what happened this morning, which was a really beautiful time together. So obviously the last few days have been full of disruption. Everything's been undermined, everything's been sidelined and canceled and uprooted. And here we find ourselves in all of our own ways making really difficult decisions, making really challenging decisions, even decisions we've never had to make before. And we certainly as a leadership team here at Makers Church have been in the same boat. We've been really rallying together to figure out how do we find a way forward. And there's been so many decisions that we've already had to make and so many that we will continue to have to make. And if I'm really honest with you, one of the hardest decisions to make was whether or not to move forward this Sunday with our Commitment Sunday, with our Here for Good campaign. And I wrestled with it all the way up until even this morning. Because it seems like for such a time as this, we can just lean fully into what's going on with COVID-19 and lean fully into everything that's going on. And then I began to think about the message that I preached last week. That when we get a vision from God and we lean into that vision and we begin to act on that vision, that all of a sudden we're going to face opposition. And I just began to kind of even chuckle at what the timing of all this has been from last Sunday to this Sunday. And thinking about opposition, and every single one of us, as we've heard from God in our own personal vision, I can only imagine how COVID-19 has begun to become opposition for you and what you've felt called to and what you've been leaning into and even deciding to step out and act into. It's all been disrupted. It's all been sidelined. And so I just thought about, what does that even mean for us as a church? Do we punt? Do we abandon this capital campaign that we're in? Do we give up on the vision? Do we change the conversation? And so I just took my own advice from last week. I took my own advice from last week as we face opposition to just return to prayer. And we have been in prayer since finding out what's going on. I mean, most of us have been on our knees more than we ever have been. And I can't think of a better response than to just return to prayer and cry out to God, even with honest prayers, as we talked about last week. Maybe not model prayers, but honest prayers. And then to be able to be the kind of people that would revise the plan. And here we are. We've revised the plan. We've stopped gathering together. We're figuring out how to meet online. I don't even know if it's working right now. I don't even know if you're with us online. If not, you'll catch it later. But we've revised the plan. And then we as a church, we're going to recast the vision. And that's what I really feel like God spoke as I returned to prayer. That we should double down, that we shouldn't be taken off course, that we shouldn't be derailed from the momentum that God has already been spurring on inside of us. And so I'm just going to recast the vision this morning and stay in the conversation that we've been in. I'm going to make it all come together and make sense for us. It already was so relevant to what's going on right now. And so after that, we got to restart the work. And there's so much work for us to do as the church. As I think about what it means for us to be here for good, there's no better time than for us to show up as the church and to be here for good. To bring hope in the midst of despair. To be light in the midst of darkness. To be a people of faith who respond and lead with faith instead of with fear and with panic. We're going to be able to create a compelling space where people feel welcomed. We're gonna create a space where memories are made and where creativity is inspired. Most importantly, we're gonna have a space where lives are transformed as people meet Jesus and begin to follow him. But in addition to that, we're also gonna be leaning into something that makes me so excited that as we invest our sacrifice, that it's actually gonna become an investment. That we're going to be able to create a space where we can become a sustainable church model. that we'll be able to leverage our space and our existing resources to cover the operating costs of our church so that one day, I hope in the near future, that every dime and dollar you give in your giving will go directly to ministry, directly to impact, directly to responses like this, to COVID-19, where every dollar isn't going to go to pay for toilet paper, and we need toilet paper. It's not going to pay for lights or for equipment or for staff. We're going to cover that with the revenue that we're able to generate from the resources that we've been entrusted with. And so as we build towards this campaign, this thing will begin to pay for itself in the future. And in addition to that, we're going to be able to build and lean into some of the most important needs in the city. We're going to build affordable housing. We have plans to put a preschool in and creative space to become a community hub to invest in the next generation. I was talking to my son, Blake, and he loves one of the two renderings that we have for the church. And he's really, really hopeful that we pick the one he likes. And I promised him that we probably wouldn't. I said, these are just ideas, buddy. It might not look anything like this. But he says, Dad, I'm really excited. And what you need to know about my son, Blake, is he loves the thing of the past. And so he's like his mother. He just loves to remember and to reminisce. And he always loves and misses whatever building we were in before the one we're in. So he just has fond memories of the different warehouses we've been in and all that. And so he finally has come full circle, and he's really excited about our plan to renovate this space. And this is becoming home for him. And he says, Dad, I want to give to this. And I said, well, buddy, what do you want to give? And he says, well, I got $70 to my name. And I said, well, how much do you want to give out of that? I said, and I'm helping him with math, and I said, well, if you want to give, 10% of that, what is it, and he actually figured it out. It had to be $7. And I said, so what are you going to give? He said, I'm going to give 20. And I was like, Blake, let's do the math. I needed a calculator for it. I said, buddy, that's 28.5% of everything you own. And he says, yeah, Dad, I'm in for that. And I'm going to make a pledge to give monthly beyond that. And I was just thinking, if my 8-year-old son can catch the vision to be part of something bigger than himself, then we too can all begin to participate with this. Look, I believe this wholeheartedly. God doesn't need our money. God is the God of all miracles. God is the God of all resources, and he could miraculously put the money in our account. He could miraculously snap, and the church would be rebuilt. But the beautiful thing is that God is not in the business of raising money. He's in the business of raising us. And instead of God working in that way, he's just chosen to give you a little bit, and you a little bit, and me a little bit, and some of you more than you need. And he's asked all of us to come together and sacrifice together, because long haul leadership, it's not only deep, but it's wide. It involves all of us. It doesn't depend upon one person. Our hope was that at our 100-year celebration, which we just had a couple of weeks ago, that we would be having it in a newly renovated building. That was our plans. It's been 3 years, 7 months, and 11 days, and we thought we'd raise the money, we'd get the work started, and by the time we celebrated 100 years, we'd be in this pretty new building with air conditioning. The update. So obviously, a lot changed, right? Those renderings aren't true anymore. None of that's happening like that. But what we did do is we completely changed our plans, right? We were going to raise the money and try to leverage different debt and yada, 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 and that all changed and went away. At the time, I'll actually show you some pictures. So this picture is this was not the plan when we made that video. The plan was to keep all this land that we own. In fact, one of the first decisions we made as a board before COVID was we would never sell any of this land. It was made to document it in the minutes, right? But then everything changed. COVID changed. And what we did that day is we actually pivoted our capital campaign, and we said, hey, we're not raising money for a building anymore, but if you still have more to give it to our benevolence fund. And for Haymakers Church, Pastor Derek here again. I just want to take a moment and give you another update on some decisions that we've made as a church. If you joined us yesterday online, and I know that was kind of a disaster, and some of you may have caught the beginning of the sermon or the end of the sermon, but you know that even yesterday morning I was conflicted on whether or not we should move forward together in raising money to renovate our church building. And we made the decision yesterday morning to continue on in that momentum and to ask you guys to participate with us in that. But so much has changed since even then. And, with the CDC implementing a ban on public gatherings of 50 or more for the next 8 weeks, it just has tremendous impact on so many of you and your lives, your ability to earn a living and make a living. And it's just that there's so much unknown. And so we have made the decision to hit pause on that capital campaign. We want to remove any obligation or ask of you at this moment. We will come back to that when the timing is right. But for now, we want to focus all of our efforts on stepping into this as the church. And so rather than doing a Here for Good building renovation campaign, we're going to ask that if you do have the ability to give, that you would reallocate those funds to our Here for Good benevolence fund. That's the fund that we're going to be able to use to respond in this time of need for the people who need it the most. And so if you have the ability to be generous in this season, please redirect your giving to our Here for Good benevolence fund, which you'll find in our drop down. And we want to just remove the obligation or the ask for our capital campaign in this season. And like I said, we'll come back to it. To those of you that have already pledged and already given, we're so grateful for it. Those funds will still go to this when the time is right. But for now, we're going to focus on being here for good as the church and reaching out to those who need it most. We love you. And for several years, many of you gave generously above and beyond to a benevolence fund, and we were able to help out so many people in and outside of our church because of your generosity. And for us at the time, that was a clear pivot that we knew was the right move to make, right? And we said we'll have no idea how we're going to do the building thing down the road if that ever comes back online. But when it started to make sense that we'd start gathering again together and all that, this is the plan that we came up with. And we own these houses that the church had bought over the last 50, 60 years. And we decided, and everything changed, the market changed, everything changed. And we decided what we're going to do is sell these homes across the street, if you can see them, which you probably have been if you looked around. They don't look lived in because they're not, because we're moving forward on this plan. Now, this plan, selling those homes, has taken us many years, well, pretty much 2 and some change after we decided let's sell the houses, let's take the money from the homes and use that to renovate the church building, right? Hence why we're not doing a capital campaign. We can clap that up, right? And so that's been a long project with lots of opposition from all sorts of different directions. But the news, the update, here it is. This is the update. I wanted to say this, it was true on Friday, last Friday, like 2 days ago. We were supposed to get our demolition permit to demo the houses, which would have been the last of our contingencies before we closed escrow with the buyer, right? That's a big news. Now, we didn't get the permit Friday, but unless COVID happens or some other crazy thing, tomorrow, like with a sure shot, we should get that. So what that means for you quite practically is in the next 2 weeks, that will turn into a big dirt lot. And that is going to be a development we're selling. We're not developing it, we're selling the land. And that will turn into development. That means we will now, in about 30 to 60 days, we'll call it by the end of the year, we will be fully funded to start our planning and permitting process for the church renovation. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a ton of ground gained, but it is a ton of ground gained. Like enough that we should, even if you don't understand it, we should clap that up. Okay? It is just, there it is. There's our church campus that will be renovated. More to come.